Last summer, thanks to the hospitality of club member Carolyn Molson, my wife and I were privileged to spend 2 weeks in the outport community of Little Bay Islands, Newfoundland. You have seen several slide showcase presentations this year of my hand of man photographs in the community in the main harbor. My nature photos from our trip included the wonderful wildflowers that grow in the woods and in the grass above some of the coves of the main island. Like all the photographs that you will see in this presentation, this was taken on a Nikon D90 SLR. This is a view from the beginning of the path to Western Cove, where the following photographs were taken. This shot was taken with my Sigma 50mm lens. As with all my photos in this presentation, this was taken handheld. Just before reaching the shore of Western Cove, the path takes us through a wonderful meadow with long, chest-high grass which felt soft to the touch as it waved in the breeze. There are many beautiful wildflowers growing in the grass at ground level. This photo was taken at f8 with my Sigma 10 to 20mm zoom lens at 11mm, which is equivalent of 16mm in full frame format. A few wildflowers, such as these white ones, have to grow tall stalks in order to compete with the grass in the meadow. These flowers were nearly at chest height. The photo was taken on the 50mm lens at f2.8 for a shallow depth of field and a shutter speed of about a 3,000th of a second, which certainly helps freeze the movement of the grass and flowers as they waved in the strong breeze in the cove. I wanted to capture the beauty of the grass in the meadow. I had my Sigma 150 to 500mm image stabilized zoom lens with me, which can give about a 1 to 3.5 macro ratio at 500mm. This photo was taken at 500mm, which is equivalent to 750mm in full frame format, with the lens wide open at f6.3 and an ISO of 560 to give me a 1,000th of a second shutter, essential to freeze the movement of the grass in the wind. I like the way the 500mm focal length gives a soft out-of-focus effect to the background, leaving a feeling of movement, even though the shutter has frozen those seed pods that are in focus. I found this pretty member of the chickweed family growing quite low to the ground. I took a more conventional approach here using my Nikon 105 macro lens at f8. The shutter of a 2/50th of a second rendered a tripod utterly unnecessary. I took these yarrow flowers with my 105 macro lens at f8. Even if I'd stopped the lens down to f16, I very much doubt I could have got all the white flowers in sharp focus at this magnification. I like that some of the flowers on the edges are soft, and I like the very soft background that the lens produces at this distance. I like using f8 since most of my lenses give their best results at that aperture. This is a member of the Potentilla family, perhaps silverweed, taken with my 105 macro at f8, handheld at a 3/20th of a second. This member of the Potentilla family isn't the same species as the flower in the previous photo. I was attracted by the color contrast between it and the forget-me-nots beneath it. For this photo I switched back to my 150 to 500mm zoom at 500mm maximum aperture. I found some more of the forget-me-nots and photographed them again with my 500mm focal length, this time at f10 to try to get some extra depth of field. The shutter speed of 160 was quite sufficient for handheld sharpness thanks to the lens's image stabilization. These meadow cranesbills are quite small, but the 500mm focal length brings them out nicely. I like the out-of-focus blur that this focal length provides at maximum aperture and at relatively short focus distances. Now we journey back through the grassy meadow, then up the trail to the highland where we met the main trail back to the harbor. The magic of satellite photography and the Google Earth website takes us back into outer space, far above Little Bay Islands. Thanks very much to Carolyn Molson for helping me to identify the wildflowers by name.